shadows are devoured by even darker shadows. The curtain pulls back and reveals a world without light.
Hey there YouTube, this is TR Bailey, and I am coming at you guys with a brand new segment, and I'm going to call this How to Get Better at Yu-Gi-Oh! So this is going to be a huge segment that I'll probably do weekly, and I'm just going to discuss specific things that can make us better at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself. Some of it can just be simple fundamentals of the game, some of it could be how to use cards, when to use cards, and just other various things that can help you become a better player and help myself hopefully as well. Just to give me a refresher on these fundamentals of the game. Some things will include card rulings, advice on how to prepare for an event, and abusing the game state, and other various topics. But today we're going to talk about abusing the game state. And there's a lot of various things that you can do to abuse a game state, but in this specific scenario, we're mostly going to discuss 3 cards that are huge in the meta today. One of them is Return from the Different Dimension. The second is Hysteric Party, which isn't huge yet, but will be with the release of the new Harpy monsters and cards. So you have Hysteric Party, Return from the Different Dimension, and Gear. So these 3 cards have a simple function. They're spell speed 2 cards that activate and special summon cards, right? So that's the biggest thing we're going to talk about. So you can also include cards like Call of the Haunted, Birthright, etc. All those cards that special summon, we can include those into this as well. That includes Pinpoint Guard and things like that as well. That's totally fine if you want to include those. But yeah, that's what we're going to be discussing mostly today. So a lot of players don't realize this, but Bottomless Trap Hole and Torrential Tribute cannot be activated in response to these cards' resolution if it is not the first card on the chain. So let's go into a discussion of some scenarios where that come up that we can really abuse this particular game state. So let's say we have a Mystical Space Typhoon set and our opponent has 2 set cards and a couple of dragons in play. This is a mirror match, and we're kind of down some cards, so we're gonna, first we're gonna try to summon our Debris Dragon, and that's gonna be stopped by a back row. And then we're gonna go ahead and activate our Mystical Space Typhoon, and we will target Dragon's Ravine. So because Dragon's Ravine was then targeted, we'll pass our priority to our opponent, who then has no response. His set card, let's say, happens to be a Torrential Tribute. I will then respond after he passes priority back to me. And Chainlink 2 will be my Return from the Different Dimension, and I will activate that card and pass priority back to him. My opponent has no response, and 5 dragons come into play. Okay, so then my opponent attempts to Torrential Tribute, but he cannot activate this card because there's no opening for it. And the reason being is that you have to activate Torrential Tribute after the resolution of a chain. The problem is that there's a card blocking that resolution. So Return will resolve, and then Mystical Space Typhoon will resolve after that, if that makes sense. So what happens is Chainlink 2, Torrential Tribute resolves. Okay, Torrential Tribute, right after it resolves, your opponent then has to activate Torrential Tribute, but he cannot activate it in the middle of a chain. And MST will then activate and resolve, and then he misses the opportunity to activate Torrential Tribute. You can even do that by just simply targeting a set card and then just flipping, and they can't respond, which is great. And then that puts the 5 dragons into play. Obviously, then you just go and attack, and the game's over, right? And that's something that simply players just don't understand. Another way you can do that is in Dragons, is you can activate Debris Dragon's effect and then respond with Return from the Different Dimension. Sure, you're not going to get Debris Dragon summoned, but that's totally okay with you, especially if you summon, 4 dragons from out of play and kill them dead. Another really sneaky way of making things work is, let's say you're playing Geargias, and, the guy that topped YCS San Mateo happened to main double Trapstone, so let's assume that you do as well. Your opponent has 4 back row, and so during your opponent's standby phase, you activate Trapstun, and your opponent then thinks about some plays and decides not to respond. You then activate Gear. So Gear special summons 2 Geargias from your deck. Your opponent then cannot activate Torrential Tribute, and to top it off, now that this chain's resolved, he can activate traps, so he just dies and loses the game. Simple as that. Unless he has Book of Moon, but then he's just a better player. Yeah, I know, I'm just kidding. But seriously, that is a way you can abuse the game state. Let's say we're playing Harpies. I am going to normal summon a Harpy monster. And then I'm going to activate Icarus Attack, tributing my card as cost, targeting 2 cards and passing priority to my opponent. My opponent then has no response, and then after that I will flip Hysteric Party, discarding a card for cost, and target 5 Harpies in the graveyard to special summon them all. My opponent then cannot activate Torrential Tribute, cannot activate Bottomless Trap Hole, or any of those cards in response to the summon of my cards. So we're playing again. Once again, we're playing around Bottomless Trap Hole and Torrential Tribute. So to sum it up, how do we know if you are going to be able to abuse this particular game mechanic? Okay. 1. Your opponent does not have an opportunity to respond with a Bottomless Trap Hole or Torrential Tribute. Okay. 2. Make sure that the card that you want to activate that special summons cards is on Chainlink number 2, because Chainlink number 2 is important because we're making it to where they can't activate Bottomless or Torrential. They don't have a window. It's similar to missing timing, but they simply don't have a window to do it. So they miss timing is what happens. So that is a way to cause Bottomless Trap Hole and Torrential Tribute to miss timing, and essentially you just sweep the game from there. So hopefully I've taught you something new, and hopefully you enjoy that, and hopefully you don't use it on me, because I would hate that. But that's how you force your opponent to basically auto-scoop to you when you do really broken stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the view. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and that's TR Bailey signing out.